10 questions for a professional coach.
So my name is Joseph Spindler. I'm a triathlon coach. I coach age group and professional athletes. I was a professional athlete before. Started triathlon quite late. I was 20 or 21, won some long distance races, and then quickly turned into the coaching. And I really love the coaching, and I think it's just what I love to do, to help other athletes and give some of the experience I learned from my professional racing or other coaches to pass the knowledge on to other athletes and help them.
Why does an athlete need a coach?
An athlete needs a coach just basically to save time, because of course you can try all the different training approaches and sessions on your own, and then you need a long time to find out what works for you and what doesn't work. So you can waste a lot of time with the wrong sessions for you. But if you have a coach who has knowledge, physiological knowledge, and a lot of experience, he knows what works for you and can give you the sessions who work best for you. And this makes you save a lot of time.
Does a coach need to practice the sport he teaches others?
I think that also depends on different sports. You know, if you talk, for example, about horse riding, I think you cannot teach that if you're not a horse rider on your own. If we talk about endurance, then I don't think you have to be an endurance athlete on your own to teach that successfully. So, for example, the most successful coach in triathlon, Brad Sutton, he's not an endurance athlete, but he understands the things that makes the training successful, which is needed in racing, very good, and then he asks his athletes to do that. And since it's rather easy movements, it's not a lot of difficult technique, it's very easy to teach that. Basically, you just have to do the work.
At what age should you start doing sports to achieve success?
You know, you can start sport at any age, doesn't matter. If you want to become a professional athlete, maybe even then it's not so important. Of course, it's different which sports you do. If you are a gymnast, a dancer, a hurdle runner, maybe you have to start very early. But if you are in the endurance sports, you can also start late and become very, very good. What you always have to remember is that it takes about 7 years of really dedicated, structured training until you reach the top end of your abilities or the top end of the sport. So 7 years, no matter which age you start, is what you have to put in to become really good.
What is more important, nutrition, recovery, or training?
What is more important, nutrition, recovery, or training? So I have a very funny story for you. One athlete had a younger brother, and the athlete was training at that time bodybuilding. So he was in the gym lifting weights, and he was eating all the protein powders to grow his muscles. And one day he came home, and his younger brother, maybe 10, 11 years, was sitting on the bed and smiling, you know, all over the face. And then the guy asked him, okay, but what happened? What you doing? And then he said, yeah, I ate all your protein powders. And he was very happy, and then said, yeah, okay, but what you are doing now on the bed? And then he said, okay, I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for the muscles to grow. Of course, if you don't put in the work, if you don't do the training, nothing will happen. You can eat as much protein powders or you can eat as healthy as you want. So you need the exercise to make the body tired, to put the stimulus so that he becomes stronger. And then you need to help that stimulus and support that stimulus with good recovery and good nutrition.
Who can become a top runner or triathlete?
So I think the most important message you have to take away is do not set any limitations on yourself. If you really want something, if you really believe something, then you really can achieve that. I think this is a very important takeaway. Never set any limits on yourself, on what you can achieve. So I think, yes, if you put in the work, if you really want it, everybody can become a really good athlete.
How much training do you need to become a world champion?
There is not like that volume is required and it works for everybody. No, some athletes need 30, 35 hours. Some athletes need less hours. So if we, for example, talk about Rico Bogen, who just became 70.3 world champion, he is training around 20 hours per week on average. Of course, we have, more heavy weeks with 30, 35 hours in training camps. We also have weeks where he only trains 10, 15 hours. But on average, across like all the past half year, is about 19, 20 hours, which is on a professional level not considered too much. At the end, you always only can train as much as you can recover. So if you put in a lot of training, but it's too much for your body, it's not beneficial for you. So the amount of training you can do and you can absorb is really the amount of training you can recover from. So the recovery determines the amount of training you can do.
What is a typical day like for a professional coach?
Oh, the typical day for a professional coach depends if you are in training camp or not. So if you are in training camp, the athletes train about 3-4 sessions. So you wake up, you go to the pool, which is often the first session. You have a little briefing to the athletes, what the day will look like. And then you oversee the first swim session. Then after the swim sessions, you go for breakfast and you tell the athletes, okay, at 11 or 12, we meet at the track, we do some running. So you oversee the next session. And then after that, most times you sit in the office doing the WhatsApp, the communication, phone calls with the other athletes who cannot be in camp, while the athletes do one session, their latest session or the third session in the day, which they are more on their own. I don't oversee that, so that they have a little bit of the freedom to work on how they feel and there's not so much pressure from the coach. So that is the day in the training. If you're at home, I wake up, then I have breakfast, maybe some also activity for me, and then I do all my emails, the WhatsApp communications, check the sessions, do phone calls with the athletes, and then they have a little break, and then it's office work again in the afternoon. So very much of that.
Former professional athletes often look unhealthy. Is sport bad for your health?
Ex-professional athletes and what they do and how they look after their professional career, then often you see that they put on a lot of weight and that they really look quite unhealthy. We have many examples. So even if you look at Diego Maradona, who was a great soccer player, he was very unhealthy, but not because he was a great soccer player, but because he had a very unhealthy lifestyle, taking drugs, drinking a lot, eating too much. So kind of often you have the feeling that professional athletes have the desire to catch up on things they missed during their professional career. So they start drinking, they start partying, they start taking drugs maybe, they start eating a lot, they start to become lazy. So they do exactly the opposite what made them good athletes. And then of course their health suffers. But it's not because they were professional athletes, it's despite. And you also have very good examples of professional athletes who kind of keep their lifestyle, who still keep working out, who still keep eating healthy, and they stay very, very healthy, more healthy than the average person until their very high age, because they still keep, doing what is good for the body. Exercising, eating healthy, not eating too much. So, if you want to really be healthy and enjoy the later years in your life, you need to exercise, you need to work out, because working out is as powerful as many very strong medical drugs for various diseases. You know, for mental health, the best is working out regularly and not taking some, drugs to lift up your mood. No, go out and train. And also to stay healthy, to not get heart disease, to not get brain disease, to not get overweight. Exercise, eat healthy is the most important.
How has the coaching changed over the past 10 years?
The coaching has changed and not changed so much over the past 10 years. So basically, the physiology of the athletes has not changed. It's still human animals, and that will not change in 30 and 50 in 100 years. So it will similar bodies we are working with. What we definitely have, we have more gadgets, we have more technical stuff, we have power meters, run power meters, VO2 analyzers, heart rate monitors. So all the technical gadgets, analyzers, that brought a lot of more data into the coaching. And now you have to decide of which of this data is helpful and which of this data is not helpful. Everything else is basically the same.
Is it true that all professional athletes use performance-enhancing drugs?
Not every athlete who has a really good result also took some performance-enhancing drugs. So, of course not. The human body is really capable of amazing things, and you do not need to take drugs to become that good. Of course, some athletes want to have a shortcut, or maybe they think that I'm not good enough, I need to have extra help. So they might to think about taking drugs, or they're actually taking drugs. But if you have the desire to become really good and not to cheat on yourself or not to cheat on other athletes, what the body can do is really amazing, and you do not need to take drugs. I still think you can become a 70.3 world champion, Ironman world champion without taking drugs.